Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we have the brand new Tier 10 Techline German battleship, the Prussia import to review for you guys today. This ship is now available for everyone to research, and if you did have the GK already researched and purchased with the premium camo, you did get this new premium camo to go along with the Prussia, which I really like. It's kind of Bismarck-esque. It's a very, very similar camo that the Bismarck had applied to her when she was sent out, and I like it. I like it a lot. And if you did have the GK either researched or purchased in your port already, the GK is now a Tier 10 special ship with all the goodies that go along with that. And they added some nice details. She now has a crest on her bow and a nameplate around her stern with her name on it. So, some very nice touch-ups to the to the GK here. Although they didn't give it the full touch-up and give her the transparent windows on the... I guess this is probably the bridge. This is the conning tower right here. Even though the Prussia is a GK hull, they gave her the transparent windows up here on the bridge. But yeah, well, no, this is the bridge, I do believe. I don't know. This might be the sailing bridge. This might be the I do know this is the conning tower from the armament here, from the armor here. Whatever. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the Prussia. We are, of course, going to be comparing the ship to the GK a lot, as this is the ship that is replacing the Grosser Kerr first. And let's go ahead and start off with her armor. So, it is, yep, it's the GK Assault. You get the 60mm icebreaker bow up here, 32mm strip right here. So that means for the Yamato, Musashi, Shikishima, super ships, anything with 18-inch 460 or above guns to get through your bow, they have to hit you in this very thin strip here. As you see from bow on, that's pretty tall, or you have a lot of RNG on your side to get multiple shells through here. And this goes into 120mm plates. Armor belt's 380mm. The upper belt is 150, and you get a 280mm strip right here. Stern, you got a semi-wraparound stern here, with 120mm there, and a 32mm stern. Stern rear deck is 32. Then we go to 50 for the center, and it should be the same story up front as well. Yep, 50 and then 32 right there. And the citadel should be, again, no surprise, a turtle back dropping over the citadel, so you're not going to citadel this thing from close range. Citadel itself, again, just like the GK, for comparison, exactly the same, just a little bit above the waterline, but again, you've got that turtle back over it to where at close range you're not going to citadel this thing, which it is, of course, designed for. The German battleship Brawlings playstyle. So she has 105,800 hit points, 25% torpedo damage reduction. Again, same as GK. Now this is where, of course, the big difference is the main battery guns. Instead of having 12 either 406 or 420mm guns, the Prussia gets 8 457mm 18-inch guns, even though Germany never designed a 457mm gun. That is my Discord, not yours. So, these 18-inch guns, they reload in 24-second space. They have a 180 time of 40 seconds. Maximum dispersion of 266 meters base. Maximum range of 20.6 kilometers base. And they have a 45% of chance of causing a fire with a maximum HE shell damage of 5,450. They can pin 114 millimeters of armor, and the HE comes out the tubes at 810 meters a second. AP has a maximum damage of 15,000. That's, of course, if you get a citadel. Same with the HE2. And initial velocity of 810 meters a second. The secondary armaments, it's the same. The mounts are just slightly different. the Prussia gets the more modern mounts that the Hanover gets, rather than the traditional 128 mounts that the GK and the other German battleships get. So they just look a little bit different, but they are the same. So they reload in 4 seconds base, have a maximum range base of 8.3 kilometers, maximum damage of 1500, 5% chance of causing a fire on the target, 32 millimeters of pin on the 128s, and they have initial velocity of 900 meters a second. And the 150s, or the normal 150 mounts, these are just the same like the GK. 7.5 second base reload time, 8.3 kilometer maximum base range, maximum damage is 1700, 8% chance of causing a fire, and 38 millimeters of pin with the 150s, and initial velocity of 875 meters a second. So, just like the GK, you cross the 32 millimeter threshold, so there's no need to take IFHE on this ship at all. We do get, again, the same airstrikes that the GK gets. Now, the AA, let's see, 83, 82, so it has slightly better AA than the GK by a rating of 1. It looks like there's one more mount here on the turrets. The GK just has one of these. What are these? These are the flak. Let's see. Nope. Yes, they're the 55 millimeter flak guns, and the GK gets, these are what, single mounts? We don't know if the GK gets those, but in double mounts on the turret. So the GK has 16 of the 55s, and then 20 of the 128s being the secondaries, and then 40 of the 20 millimeters. The Prussia gets, oh boy, math now. The Prussia gets 24 of the 30 millimeters. Oh, so she has 30 millimeters. Okay, so she has, oh, okay, I see. So she's got 30 mils. I see. So the Prussia gets 8 of the dual-mounted 30 mils. Then she gets 20 of the quadruple-mounted 30 mils. Then she gets 6 of the single-mounted 55s. And then 8 of the double-mounted 55s. And then the 2128s on top of that are dual purpose. So slightly more AA out of the Prussia, which is kind of a good thing. That means there's more mounts you have to knock out. With the GK, she used to have actually good AA before the CV rework. It's just that it was focused in just a few mounts than her secondaries. So the Prussia having more AA mount should make it slightly better, but I don't think it's going to be a plain swatter body stretch of the imagination. Maximum speed 30 knots with no flag, turning circle radius of 1050 meters, and a run shift time of 19.4 seconds. Which is actually slightly slower than a GK. I thought that. So my GK has the speed flag on. Let's slap that on real quick. 31.5. That sounds like the speed flag. Yeah. So 31.5. Okay. So again, it's the same. Again, except for the main battery guns, it should essentially be the same for the most part. Detectability by sea, 17.6 kilometers base. So yep, that's GK. So again, as you've seen here, it's essentially, except for the AA and the main battery guns, exactly same ship as the GK. But of course, with the different main battery guns, it's a battleship, and well, of course, a video game. So it's all about those main battery guns. So I'm going to go ahead and slap a commander and module build on the ship, and then we'll take her into battle and see how she performs. Alright, we have the Prussia kitted out now. So, I forgot to cover the consumables, but again, standard GK consumables. We've got hydroacoustic search that goes out to 6 kilometers, active for 120 seconds, reloads 114 seconds, you get 3 charges base, and you have a choice between fighter or spotter. Then you've got a heal and damage con. Heal repairs 634 HP per second. It's active for 30.8 seconds. Reload is 76 seconds. You get 5 charges with the build that I have on the ship. Speaking of the build that I have on the ship, I went with a standard secondary build, although I am very, very tempted to build into the main battery guns of the Prussia. I'll probably try that out. Probably its whole own video trying out main battery gun build on the Prussia, but of course, this is probably how most of you guys are going to be playing it, with a secondary build. So, I went with Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1 to keep the secondary guns in the fight. Of course, with the amount of HE being thrown around now, you want to, of course, keep your secondaries in the fight, especially if you're building into them. And thankfully, the Germans have one of the more survivable set of, well, actually, the most survivable set of secondaries in the game. Then we took Damage Con Mod 1. This will, of course, decrease our chance of catching on fire or having a flood happen. And, of course, we're in a German battleship, which are just known to be barbecues, so we want to decrease that as much as possible. Then I went with Secondary Battery Mod 1. This, of course, increases the range of the secondary guns and decreases their dispersion. Naturally, we want that. Damage Con Mod 2 cuts down on our fire and flooding recovery time. Again, fire bad. We don't want any of that if we can help it. Concealment System Mod 1. This, of course, decreases the detection range of the ship. And given this is a ship with a 17.5 kilometer base detection range, we want to tone that down, of course. Then finally, Auxiliary Armaments Mod 2, which decreases the secondary battery reload time even further. And it also does boost your AA as well if you're interested in that. And then for a commander build, we of course have Lucians, because why wouldn't you want Lucians on anything German if you have them? So we went with preventive maintenance to keep those main battery guns in the fight, especially now that we have 8 of them. That's, of course, now when one turret gets knocked out, there goes a good chunk of your firepower, though of course that applied beforehand. And Lucians does have the improved preventive maintenance skill. So you get a 45% chance reduction in your modules becoming incapacitated. Went with MLG turrets, well, grease the gears, because this will get our turrets rotating a little bit faster, and in a brawl situation, you don't want to be waiting on your turrets if you can help it. Then, of course, we went with long-range secondary battery shells to increase the range of our secondaries even further. Adrenaline Rush, because this gives us a boost to our reload time when we lose health. And increasing your DPM is always a good thing. Then, of course, manual secondary battery aiming. This will, of course, when you select a target, as you fire at it, your secondaries get more accurate over time. This also gives another boost to the reload time and the dispersion of 10% to both. And then once 45 seconds has run up after your secondaries have fired at a target, you get a 50% boost to your accuracy, and it does build up over time. Kind of, sort of, it builds up to like 30%, and then the other, I think the first 20 seconds it builds up to 30%, and then the last 25 it builds up to 50. It's strange. I don't know why it just isn't a gradual increase, but Wargame is going to do what Wargame is going to do. Alright, and then of course Emergency Repair Expert. This gives us an additional charge of our heal, which you want. And then Fire Prevention. Fire suck. This decreases our chance of catching on fire, and it also decreases the maximum number of fires on the ship. Alright, so again, I do very much want to try a main battery gun build on the GK, on the Prussia, but this is what we're going to run on this ship for this review. I'm going to go ahead and hop into battle with the ship, and I'll meet you guys there with my voiceover review of the Prussia. Well, editing Mountbatten wants to kill real-life Mountbatten again, because I once again forgot to show you guys what the build has done to the ship. I mean, you guys should know. Your secondaries are now out to 12.5 kilometers. The 128s have a 2.7 second reload time now. And the 150s have a 5.1 second reload time now. The concealment is, now down to 15.9 kilometers. And the ship's top speed with the speed flag is now 31.5 knots. And I don't think anything else should have changed. Oh, the main battery guns, they now rotate in 32 seconds flat. Okay, now to the gameplay. Alright guys, voiceover Mountbatten here, and oh my god. This has to have been the absolute worst patch night I've experienced in terms of the teams that I've gotten throughout the night in a very, very long time. I have been playing for the past, what time is it? Okay, about 3 hours now. And the teams are just miserable. They did dump a lot of ships this patch. We got the Prussia, we've got the Forster Sherman now at tier 10, the Super CVs are available now, and oh my god, tier 10 is a mess at the moment. It's been a night. It's been a night. Unfortunately, you're watching the most, well, entertaining game I had in the Prussia. It was a night of agony and frustration. I wanted to call it quits quite a while bit before this match, but I wanted to get a somewhat decent match at least to show you guys the Prussia. So, the Prussia, how it be? Well, with the build that I'm running on the Prussia, and this is something that, of course, the GK would have struggled with given tonight's teams as well, it unfortunately wasn't very useful. And I'm probably going to swap it out for a main battery gun build. Because if the current meta at Tier 2, now it is, of course, patch night. Everyone and their mom is on. It's a bit of a mess. The new super carriers are out. And everything else is out too. I mean, shoot, they dumped the Dido and the Canaries on us too, as well. And God, there's so many Prussias in the game too. I think I didn't go a match without at least 4 of them on the field, and that was something. But yeah, what happened tonight is that apparently no one wants to push anymore until the odds are just overwhelmingly in your team's favor. Like, what happened tonight, the teams were sitting in the back in almost every match I was in. Sitting in the back, essentially waiting for the other team's destroyers and cruisers to die or get knocked out. Or in most cases, the destroyer would get knocked out, our destroyer in about 70% of the cases. And now everyone's blind because no one's within spotting distance of the enemy team. So now we sit there and try to either kite as well as we can while being spotted by the enemy team's DD and have their cruisers and battleships just dunk on us from either behind islands or outside of your main battery range, because the Prussia only has a 20-kilometer base main battery range. Or everyone just sat there and the points ticked up until somebody won. Very boring night, very frustrating. And of course, the Prussia has, terrible concealment. You can be spotted from the moon, so you're the one that's going to be picked on because it's a Prussia. It's a new ship, and new ship on patch night. And YouTuber and new ship on patch night meant that I got special attention. I don't know how many games I played, but I'd be willing to bet 70% of them I had over like 2.5 million potential damage. I had 3 games where I had over 3 million potential damage in this ship. So the ship is, of course, fantastically tanky. It's the GK solid from close range. If you know how to angle, this ship is very, very, very good. Especially because the main battery guns have much better stern angles than the GK does. Like, oh my god, this thing is great for kiting. But of course, in order to kite, you have to have teams push into you, and that wasn't happening tonight, really, unfortunately. So that's a very, very, very big pickup from the GK to the Prussia. Now, of course, the main battery guns, besides having improved turret angles from the stern, how they be? Well, they be pretty good. So you get 8 18-inch guns. They are 457s, again, not 460. So you can't overmatch 32. You can overmatch 30, which is very nice. A lot of cruisers now have 30mm plating at tier 10, so you can overmatch that. And you get 8 of them that reload in 24-second space. Again, this is with a secondary battery build. I'm probably going to swap this out for a main battery build, especially given tonight. But I mean, like, I don't think it would have made a huge drastic difference between what happened tonight. Tonight was just completely just garbage matchmaking, garbage teams, super carriers are out. It was a painful experience tonight. But I do want to see how the ship performs with a main battery gun build on it. The dispersion, it's not terribly bad, especially with the 24-second reload time. With Adrenaline Rush, shoot, I was down to the 20s and the 19s in the ship. And that's very, very nice for a ship with 8 18-inch guns. And this is still German AP, German velocities, and German shell arcs. These guns freaking hurt other ships very, 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 very much when they get hit by them. The battleships are probably your easiest source of damage, of course. Especially other Prussias. That's, whew. Got quite a few big hits out of other Prussias. Unfortunately, the games didn't last long enough for those to add up to anything, but yeah. But yeah, the guns hit hard. They, in comparison to GK, you do have more shells to throw out the wall with GK, with 12 guns versus 8, but a longer reload time. But these guns are probably better for the meta than the GKs, because GKs 406s to 420s, you can't overmatch 30. And I don't know what's Wargaming's love affair with 457mm guns now at tier 10 is, but it's nice to have 18-inch guns with German AP and German shell arcs and the like. Now, of course, the ship is, a brawler. I wouldn't slap a main battery gun build on this and then start sniping from 20 kilometers as much as I had to tonight. It was a miserable experience. It's not a sniper. It's best played stern in on the flank where the enemy team is pushing you, because when you're stern in this thing, your rear gun angles are so much better than the GKs. You can stay properly angled to bounce most of the shells that are going to be fired at you. Most of the AP shells are going to be fired at you. You can keep your 8 18-inch guns in the match. Now, unfortunately, that didn't happen tonight at all. It was just a terrible night for anything, but it can definitely do it. And in that situation, the GK, of course, can only get the rear 2 turrets on target because the front 2 turrets have terrible angles. But apparently removing 1 gun from the turret gives you such better gun angles. So she's great for that. But, I mean, for brawling and such, I mean, it's the GK secondaries, We get the 20 128s, and we get the 8 150s. They can all they can all pin 32mm of armor. So they're still great secondaries. You still get a bunch of them. And when they get going on the target, and you do get to see the secondaries, of course, go to work in the match you're watching right now. And they are very good at what they do, just like the GK secondaries, because they are the GK secondaries. They're just in slightly shinier mounts. But is this better than the Grosser Kurfürst? For the current meta, I would say yes. It's a much better kiter. You got 18-inch guns, which can overmatch a lot more than even the GK's 420mm guns can overmatch. So it's a much more fitting ship for the current meta. And of course, the reload time is great, 24-second space. If you want to build into that, you can get that down to 20 seconds quite easily. And now you're throwing 18-inch shells out of your guns every 20 seconds. So that helps make up for the lack of accuracy. Now, it's not like pre-buff Gneisenau bad accuracy, but it is definitely frustrating, especially with how I had to play the ship tonight at longer ranges. You're putting half your shells in the water when you only have 8 shells. But thankfully, again, because of the reload time, you had more shells coming up quite quickly. I'm going to keep playing the ship, and this is probably a ship I'm going to do a second impressions video on. If you guys haven't noticed, if you guys haven't noticed recently, I've kind of stopped doing the second impressions video because generally I play the ship enough in the first impressions to get a general feel for the ship. But the matches were just so foobar tonight. I got a good feel for the ship and her turret angles, her guns, how accurate her guns are. I just would really like to see the ship get a chance to shine and really do her thing, get in close and brawl once the matches or the teams or whatever's screwing with the matches tonight calms down, and we can take the ship out again and see once she gets into that mid-range, secondary range, fighting other battleships or other or cruisers from medium to close range, and see how she can really stretch her legs. But right now I have a pretty good feeling about the ship. Again, I think it's better than the GK for the current meta, but I love GK. It's my second most played ship. God, I think it's Yami at like just under 1,000 games, and then GK's around 700 or something at this moment. And it does play differently than GK. It's a lot more kiting, a lot more being more aware of your position, trying to draw the enemy team into your fire. With the GK, can kind of unga boonga because 12 guns. It's still 12 guns, even though it's 16-inch guns. But again, that doesn't happen a lot anymore in the current meta. So Prussia's a lot better for the current meta, where you're going to have to be kiting a lot more and engaging at longer ranges than you would with like the GK. So I do like the ship right now. Keep your eye out for a second impressions video on the Prussia. I'm probably also going to try a main battery gun build and see how that goes with the Prussia as well. But for first impression, she seems like a really solid ship. Just good luck if you're trying to play this week with the way the teams have been tonight. Patch week is normally a pretty screwy week for the game because of everyone jumping on to try the new features and such. So we'll see how this pans out, and I'll see what we're going to cover tomorrow. We might try and see if I can get the Canaries, the 4 Sherman, or the Dido. A lot has been dropped into our laps with this update. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about the Prussia in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the way to 35,000 subscribers. We just passed 33,300 yesterday, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.